obviously a fair few big outs at the weekend. How did that impact structure, penetration, scoring opportunities, and with their inclusion, potentially the margin in your mind?
Oh, well, I think everyone understands that we were a better team with those guys available. I think we had 7 key position senior players out of the team on the weekend. So I think everyone knows that the answer to that question, with all due respect. I think, that you'd rather have those guys available. Cameron and Hawkins are outstanding, but that's just the reality of it. This week we're not going to have Fox available. He failed his HIA, so we're going to have to keep going with a philosophy, depending upon whether we get anyone back this week or not. With just have to get it done. Have to deal with what we can control, and whether that's a young squad like we had on the weekend, which was against a really experienced, hardened team, or player availability. You just got to get on with it and do some things that are the game just requires, and that's what we're going to focus on, what we can control, and that's some of the things that we served up over the course of that game on the weekend were unacceptable.
John, you just mentioned Fox. What were your thoughts in regards to that incident from an MRO perspective?
Oh, it doesn't matter what my thoughts are. He's out for a week, so I think I'll probably step it back a little bit. We lost Franklin after round 1, and under circumstances that we thought that he was trying to protect himself, and he was suspended. Just a little bit of consistency, but they also understand that not every incident that players get knocked in the head is going to be suspended either. And as much as we understand that the game, we're trying to protect the head, and we're all mindful of that. We also understand that things can happen in a game of footy.
Any update?
John, it's the heaviest defeat you've had in your time there. How's that sitting with you now, a couple of days on?
Well, it doesn't sit very well with any of us, and as I mentioned before, regardless of being the youngest team in the weekend versus the oldest, or the player availability, we just got to find ways of dealing with that and getting on with it, and looking at the things we can control, and focus on the competitiveness and the contest and what's happening there with the players that we've got available, and get them to make sure that there are some things that we need to get right, no matter what it is, who's playing or who we play.
It's the second time this season you've been overrun in the second half. Melbourne away, you were in touch early in the third, and then it blew out. Now Geelong away as well. Admittedly, 2 very difficult games, but how concerning is that early in the season that you've been overrun severely in the second half?
Well, I think there's some natural things. There are some player availability issues that are pretty tough to ignore, that would be a better team with. But we're looking at not so much that fact. We're just looking at the fact that we've got to compete from contest to contest. We're boiling it down even smaller than that, just focusing on the what can we do at that particular contest, and that's what we need to do with this team, is just to keep on reinforcing the requirements at that particular contest at that particular point in the game.
John, just circling back a little bit, any update on Buddy from the last 24 hours? The 48 hours, rather?
We're not sure with Franklin, Rampy and Tommy McCartan just yet, whether there'll be any availability this week from those 3 or not. We'll just have to wait and see.
And John, mindful of the sensitivity surrounding the treatment and how he is and so forth, how's Paddy, and what's his current situation?
He's fine, Tom. He's going okay.
Has he still got concussion symptoms?
I haven't spoken to him since the weekend. I haven't spoken to him today, but he's going okay.
But he obviously won't play this week.
Who?
Paddy.
No.
John, on Rampy and Tom, they both seemed to train last week, so how close might they be for this week?
We're not sure yet. Obviously on a Monday we haven't had our first training session even, so we'll see how the week progresses. We're hoping that they'll start to get a bit of training tomorrow, a bit more training than what they had last week, but ultimately they'll be assessed by the doctors whether they're available to play or not. It won't be influenced by our, with Foxy not being available this week or not. It will just be influenced on whether they're ready to go.
A lot of fans obviously are talking about the move to start Callum Mills in defence and keep him there for large parts of the game when Aaron Francis played forward. How is that decision sitting with you wake of Saturday night?
We lost Joel Armity last week, so we needed a key forward. And so, we needed a key forward. We needed key backs, but that's just the situation we're in. And we've got Gouldy, that only played his second game on the weekend, coming on from sub and playing on Tom Hawkins. And at different times, you need a few senior players down there just to help with that. And we'd rather not play him there, but we needed to on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, how tricky is it? Because you've spoken so much about the defence being helped with the lack of numbers by controlling the midfield contest, and he's probably your best midfield ball winner. So how difficult is that one to manage? Oh,
it's a challenge. I mean, you go into every week. We'd love him to be playing in the midfield. But if we threw Francis and Gould back as fullback and centre half back, who plays forward for us? And so we're looking at that, and need to look at the whole team and see who gives us a target up front. When we've got those injuries to our key position stocks, there's a reality of having to manage that we're trying to get on top of.
John, if there were any scars up to the grand final, are there any more, or are they stronger now that you've lost again by a significant margin to the same team?
I just think it's a way we were poor, whether it was in the grand final on the weekend. We're just poor in the contest, and we can't lose the contest by as much as what we did on the weekend and in the grand final and expect to be competitive. I mean, there's a significant, we know that, age and experience and size difference that we can't control, but there is also things we can control, and that's our intent. And we haven't been up to scratch in that intent aspect in those two games.
John, does the club have a diagnosis on Matty Roberts' knee injury?
It's immediate. He's going to get a scan. He hasn't got it yet. He's getting a scan today, but he'll be a few weeks. So we'll have Ian and Foxy out of the team this week.
Just on the Giants, I feel like we've seen some good glimpses from what they're offering under Adam Kingsley. What's been your read from the first 6 rounds from GWS?
I think they've shown some, as you mentioned, some really good signs, and you've got some terrific players, and they'll be competitive. The games that we play against the Giants always are. So we expect that this week. They've shown a different style of play that they'll be throwing up, and we'll have to be on our game to be able to counteract that.
Is something you'd consider, John, to try and readjust your structure and get a bit more height? I saw Tom Hickey had a really good return in the VFL on the weekend. Is he someone who could come in and potentially free up Laddams to play as a key position forward or something?
Yeah, look, Tom played we just for his first game. We're mindful he's 32 and coming back from three soft tissue injuries in a row. So we've just got to make these decisions based upon what the team needs, but also, and what we'd like in a structural sense, but also what the players can actually do and whether they're right to play. So whether that's Tom or Tom McCartan or Ramps or Bud or those guys, we'll have to make that decision on whether they can actually come out and contribute regardless of what the team needs.
Just on a match-up for Toby Green this week, John is obviously in fantastic form. Robbie Fox is not there. Is it Nick Blakey? Is that a straightforward one for you for Toby?
Nothing's as straightforward when you're trying to match up on Toby. So we'll go through and look at we haven't had a chance to delve into that. We're sort of sorting through the availability of the players today, and then seeing what we can do at training tomorrow and see who's ready to go. I mean, there's no question that he's a star player, and Foxy would have been a chance to play on him, but we'll work through what the situation is with Rampy and Tommy McCartan and see what happens with those two before we make a decision.